The Messerschmitt fighter screams through the sky above the English Channel, its engine roaring with mechanical fury. Inside the cramped cockpit, Oberleutnant Klaus Richter grips the controls, sweat streaming down his face despite the freezing altitude. He is 23 years old, a decorated ace with 17 confirmed kills. In 2 minutes, he will be dead, and he has no idea why. The engine coughs. A strange metallic grinding erupts from somewhere deep in the cowling. Richter's eyes dart to the instrument panel. Oil pressure dropping. Temperature spiking into the red. Impossible. This aircraft passed inspection 3 hours ago at the airfield in Calais. Every gauge was perfect. Every system operational. The propeller shudders violently. Black smoke begins pouring from the exhaust ports, thick and choking. Richter jams the throttle back, desperately trying to nurse the dying engine, but the grinding intensifies into a horrific shriek of tearing metal. Through the windscreen, he sees the English coast in the distance. So close. His hands move through emergency protocols drilled into muscle memory. But nothing responds. The engine is eating itself from the inside. Then the explosion. The cowling tears away in a spray of superheated fragments. Flames engulf the nose. Richter has seconds to make a decision no pilot ever wants to face. He reaches for the canopy release, knowing that bailing out over the channel in winter is a slow death sentence. But burning alive is worse. His fingers close around the lever. He never pulls it. The fuel line ruptures, and the fireball consumes the cockpit in an instant. The Messerschmitt tumbles from the sky, trailing black smoke, just another casualty in a war that devours men and machines without discrimination. On the beaches below, British observers mark the crash in their logbooks. Enemy aircraft destroyed. Cause unknown. They do not realize they have just witnessed the first kill of an operation that does not officially exist. 6 months earlier, a different kind of battle unfolds in a sterile conference room deep beneath the streets of London. The air reeks of cigarette smoke and desperation. Around a scarred wooden table sit men whose names will never appear in history books. They are OSS, Office of Strategic Services, and they are losing. Major William Donovan stands at the head of the table, his face carved from granite and exhaustion. Behind him, a map of Europe drowns in red pins marking Luftwaffe airfields. There are hundreds. Donovan's voice cuts through the smoke like a knife. Gentlemen, we have a problem that will cost us the war. The projector flickers to life. Grainy reconnaissance photographs fill the wall, German fighters lined up in perfect rows, bombers being fueled and armed, the infrastructure of an air force that, despite years of Allied bombing, refuses to die. Donovan continues. Our intelligence estimates the Luftwaffe can put 1,500 fighters in the air over the invasion beaches. 1,500. Our boys will be slaughtered on the sand before they take 10 steps. A British liaison officer interjects, his accent clipped and bitter. We have been bombing their fuel production for 2 years. We have dropped more ordnance on synthetic fuel plants than any other target in the Reich. And yet they keep flying. Donovan nods grimly. Because we cannot hit what we cannot see. They have dispersed production across dozens of hidden facilities. They repair faster than we can destroy. And even when we do hit a plant, they have stockpiles, reserves, redundancy built into every system. He pauses, letting the weight settle. Conventional warfare will not solve this problem in time. That is when the door opens and a man enters, who does not belong in this room of soldiers and spies. Dr. James Hartley is 41 years old, thin as a rail, with nicotine-stained fingers and eyes that have not seen sleep in days. Before the war, he taught organic chemistry at MIT and published papers on catalytic decomposition that 3 people in the world understood. Now he works for a division of the OSS that does not have a name, developing ways to kill that leave no trace. Hartley moves to the table and sets down a small glass vial filled with clear liquid. It looks like water. In the silence, someone coughs nervously. Hartley does not waste time with pleasantries. This compound, when introduced into aviation fuel at a concentration of 0.03%, initiates a cascading catalytic reaction within the engine cylinders. The process is invisible during ground testing. The fuel burns normally. All metrics appear standard. But under sustained high-temperature operation, the compound causes microscopic pitting in the cylinder walls. Over approximately 15 to 20 hours of flight time, the damage accumulates until catastrophic failure. Another officer leans forward skeptical. "You are saying this poison makes their engines destroy themselves?" Hartley meets his gaze. "I am saying we turn their own fuel into a time bomb. They pump it into their tanks, fly their missions, and do not know they are already dead. When the invasion comes, their fighters will fall from the sky not because we shot them down, but because their engines melted from the inside." Donovan's expression does not change, but his eyes sharpen with predatory interest. "How much do you need to produce enough for their entire fuel supply?" Hartley allows himself a thin, humorless smile. "That is not the question, Major. I can synthesize tons of this compound in a month. The question is, how do we get it into their fuel without them knowing? We need people inside the Reich, inside the refineries, people willing to die for a mission they cannot tell anyone about." The room goes silent. Every man present understands what Hartley is proposing. This is not a bombing raid where success or failure is measured in explosions and casualties. This is infiltration into the most guarded industrial facilities in Nazi Germany. This is sabotage on a molecular level. This is sending men and women into the heart of the enemy machine with poison in their pockets and no hope of extraction if discovered. Donovan stubs out his cigarette and lights another. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of 10,000 graves. "How many agents do you need?" Hartley does not hesitate. 12? Chemists who can pass as German workers? People who understand the refining process well enough to dose the fuel lines without detection? People who will not break under Gestapo interrogation? Where do we find 12 chemists with a death wish? Hartley reaches into his jacket and produces a folder. Inside are dossiers, photographs, backgrounds. Names of scientists who fled occupied Europe, who lost families to camps and bombs, who carry rage that no amount of distance can extinguish. I already found them. They have been waiting for someone to ask. Donovan opens the folder and studies the faces. A Polish petroleum engineer whose wife was shot in Warsaw. A French industrial chemist whose children starved in the siege of Paris. A German defector who watched the Nazis burn his university. Each one carries a story written in blood and ash. Each one has nothing left to lose. Donovan closes the folder. When can they be ready? They are ready now. Then get them into France. Get them into the factories. And do not let this operation leave this room. If the Germans discover what we are doing, they will change every supply line, every protocol, every shipment. This works exactly once, or not at all. Hartley nods and retrieves the vial. As he turns to leave, Donovan's voice stops him. "Doctor, when this is over, when our boys land on those beaches and the Luftwaffe does not come, no one will know why. No one will know your name or the names of those 12 people. History will not remember this." Hartley looks back, and for the first time something almost human crosses his face. Good. That means it worked. He walks out, and the door closes behind him with the finality of a coffin lid. The operation has begun. The poison is ready. The agents are chosen. In 6 months, the skies over Normandy will belong to the Allies, and the world will never know that the battle was won not with bullets and bombs, but with chemistry and ghosts. Nazi Germany, spring 1944. The train barrels through the night along the industrial arteries of the Ruhr Valley, every carriage thick with the stench of chemicals and fear. Under flickering lamps, uniforms and work smocks blend. In a cramped corner of the second-class cabin, the agent known as Victor sweats beneath layers of forged identification and a factory worker's cap. His real name is lost to every document but one, hidden beneath a floorboard in London. At this moment he is nothing. He is shadow. As the train slows for the checkpoint, Victor surveys the faces around him. There are 6 agents scattered along the train, each tasked with a critical role: impersonate, infiltrate, survive. They've spent weeks mastering dialects, memorizing routines, learning the precise mannerisms of the men who blend into the Reich's war machine. To fail here is to disappear inside the darkness of Gestapo cells, forever erased by silence and fire. A surly guard enters, scanning papers and faces. Each heartbeat thunders as Victor passes him an oily slip. The guard squints, grunts, then leans closer. One wrong number, one crooked signature, and all is lost. But the false papers, crafted by the desperate hands of resistance forgers in Paris, hold. Victor is waved through, but the agent 2 seats down is not. She vanishes toward a cold-lit office, and the team's margin for error vanishes with her. At the gates of the refinery, steel towers loom and spotlights slice the fog. The agents split and disappear into the labyrinth of pipes, boilers, and storage tanks. Every second is a calculated risk. Victor and 2 others must integrate themselves as local technicians, each step building plausible histories, borrowing regional stories, matching scars and tattoos. They shadow real workers, decipher decades-old logbooks, and offer nervous smirks to foremen whose suspicions never sleep. To gain access to the fuel lines, Victor works double shifts, fakes a friendship with an embittered German mechanic, and waits for the one night every month when the tankers are filled under minimal supervision. That night, as an air raid siren echoes in the distance, Victor finally stands beneath a fuel vent, trembling. He unscrews a valve and pours a small vial of the compound into 5,000 liters of synthetic gasoline. Sweat soaks through his shirt. Every minute stretches toward exposure, arrest, or sudden violence. Eyes everywhere. In the dim light, another agent signals from across the yard. Success at one tank, but failure at the next. The German foreman found her fiddling with a pressure gauge and called security. Gunshots puncture the night. In the chaos, Victor escapes, but her fate is sealed. The team is wounded. Victory bittersweet. Every infiltrator knows that survival is borrowed time. Victor flees into the darkness, lungs burning, carrying no reward except the secret hope that one day soon a German engine will scream and die over Normandy. Behind him, the refinery resumes its endless churn, and the poisoned fuel begins its journey toward Luftwaffe airfields destined for disaster. The price of sabotage is immediate: loss, fear, and silence. But the operation survives in the hands of the living and the sacrifice of the lost. The network expands, every day risking detection and death, for the promise that, when it matters most, the enemy's wings will fall. Inside the sprawling chemical plant on the outskirts of Cologne, danger has become routine. The ceiling rattles from distant air raids, but for the agents embedded as refinery workers, true terror stalks in the silence between alarms. Every moment spent in the labyrinth of pipes and tanks is one heartbeat from discovery. Dr. James Hartley wears grease under his nails and the false name Johann Bauer. He works among men who would execute him in an instant, moving with the calculated precision of a veteran spy. Each shift, Hartley studies the rhythms of the refinery: who checks the gauges, when inspectors walk the catwalks, where conversations drown amid machinery. Tonight, the stakes have risen. The order is clear: dose a new batch of fuel and keep the process invisible. One mistake could mean burning alive inside a cauldron of toxic chemicals, or dying beneath Gestapo bullets. Hartley is haunted by what happened last week. He watched another agent dragged out by security, screaming, and the team now counts every hour as a victory borrowed from fate. In the dim light, Hartley opens a maintenance panel concealed behind a stack of empty drums. His gloved hands tremble as he measures out the colorless compound, whispering the formula under his breath. A lifeline to sanity. They attacked 5 sites in 10 days, coordinating every move through signals etched in factory walls and intercepted notes. Each dose sabotages thousands of liters. Each risk breeds new suspicion. The plant's German overseer, Obersturmbannführer Stein, prowls the floors, sniffing for sabotage. He senses a growing epidemic: engines failing during flight tests, mechanics cursing invisible sabotage, engineers blaming impurities, sabotage suspected but never proven. Hartley's partner, a French agent posing as a night foreman, signals him from across the compound. The next batch is ready. Hartley moves, precise, invisible, but nearly collides with Stein in the gloom. The German's eyes narrow, suspicion bristling, and Hartley's heart hammers in his chest. The agents improvise, risk exposure, and narrowly evade capture in a pulse-racing sequence. Stein's men find traces of unexplainable residue, raising alarm throughout the sector. The GM spies ramp up interrogations, and the refinery's breath thickens with paranoia. Above the city, engine failures multiply. Pilots curse their luck, officers berate their staff. The enemy's war machine is rotting from within, and no one understands why. Hartley leaves the factory under cover of darkness, battered but alive, knowing that every successful sabotage brings the Gestapo closer, and the countdown toward D-Day nearer. The silent war rages inside every drop of fuel, and all that separates victory from death is a handful of invisible, exhausted men living on borrowed time. The basement interrogation room in Gestapo headquarters reeks of blood, sweat, and urine. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead, casting sick shadows across concrete walls scarred by decades of violence. In the center sits a man who no longer resembles a human being. His face is swollen beyond recognition, his fingers bent at impossible angles, his body a canvas of burns and lacerations. This is Pierre Montan, though the Gestapo knows him only as the saboteur. 3 days ago, he was one of the most effective OSS agents operating inside the Reich. Now he is a breathing question. How much will he reveal before he dies? Standartenführer Klaus Hoffmann circles the room like a predator savoring the kill. Hoffmann is 46 years old, a career Gestapo officer who has perfected the art of extracting secrets from men who believe they can endure anything. He has broken generals, resistance leaders, and double agents. This chemist should have been easy, but Montand has said nothing. Not a name, not a location, not a single word that compromises the operation. Hoffmann's patience is wearing thin. You think silence makes you a hero? Hoffmann leans close, his breath hot against Montand's ruined face. Your friends are already dead. We found the chemical signature in fuel samples from 4 refineries. We know what you did. The only question now is who else dies with you. Montand's lips move, but no sound emerges except a wet, rattling gasp. Hoffmann signals to his assistant, who brings a bucket of ice water and dumps it over Montand's head, jolting him back to consciousness. The agent's eyes flutter open, unfocused, drowning in agony. Hoffmann grabs his jaw and forces eye contact. Give me one name, just one, and this ends. Montand's response is a bloody smile. Hoffmann's fist crashes into his face with the force of absolute fury. Bone cracks, blood sprays. But still, the agent says nothing. Hoffmann steps back, breathing hard, frustration boiling over. This man should have broken hours ago. The fact that he has not means one terrifying thing. The mission is bigger than Hoffmann imagined, and time is running out. Across the Reich, panic spreads like wildfire through the Luftwaffe High Command. In a fortress bunker beneath Berlin, General Feldmarschall Erhard Milch slams his fist on a table covered with failure reports. Engine malfunctions have skyrocketed across every airfield from France to Poland. Fighters are grounded. Bombers cannot complete missions. Maintenance crews are overwhelmed, tearing apart engines only to find inexplicable internal corrosion that should not exist in fuel refined to military specifications. Milch's chief engineer, a graying veteran named Otto Schreiber, stands before him, clutching a folder, thick with laboratory analyses. Herr Generalfeldmarschall, we have isolated trace contaminants in fuel samples taken from 6 different depots. The chemical composition does not match any known impurity from standard refining processes. This is deliberate sabotage. Milch's face drains of color. How widespread? Schreiber hesitates, then delivers the death sentence. Every batch produced in the last 8 weeks may be compromised. We are testing reserves, but if the sabotage penetrated distribution networks, we could be looking at thousands of contaminated tons. If this continues, the Luftwaffe will be crippled within weeks. The room falls silent, except for the distant rumble of Allied bombers overhead. Milch knows what this means. The invasion everyone whispers about, the one intelligence swears is coming soon, will meet minimal air resistance if the Luftwaffe cannot fly. Germany's fate hinges on solving this mystery before D-Day, but the enemy operates in shadows, invisible and lethal. Back in the Gestapo basement, Hoffmann receives a phone call that changes everything. His face hardens as he listens. Then he hangs up and turns to Montand with renewed venom. We found your safe house in Lyon. 4 of your people are dead. 1 talked before we shot her. She gave us names, locations, and the chemical formula you have been using. Your operation is finished. It is a lie. Hoffmann has found nothing. But lies are weapons, and Montand is bleeding out, his will fraying at the edges. For the first time, doubt flickers in the agent's eyes. Hoffmann sees it and presses harder. You think your sacrifice matters? It does not. We will hunt down every last one of your colleagues. We will execute them in the streets. And when the invasion comes, our fighters will be waiting because you failed." Montan's head sags forward. His breath comes in shallow, broken gasps. Hoffman leans in, sensing victory. "Tell me where they are. End this." For a long, agonizing moment, silence fills the room. Then Montan's lips move, forming words barely audible above his labored breathing. Hoffman leans closer, straining to hear. And Montan whispers, in perfect, defiant English, "You are already dead. You just do not know it yet." Hoffman's face twists in rage. He draws his pistol and fires once, execution style. Montan's body slumps in the chair, lifeless. The Gestapo officer stands over the corpse, shaking with fury and frustration. He has learned nothing. The operation continues, invisible and unstoppable. In London, deep beneath OSS headquarters, Dr. James Hartley receives the coded transmission confirming Montan's capture. His hands tremble as he decodes the message, knowing what it means. Montan will not talk. Hartley handpicked him for his unbreakable will. But the Gestapo will intensify their hunt. Every agent still inside the Reich is now a target. The window is closing. Hartley pulls out a map, marked with the locations of remaining operatives. 8 agents are still active, embedded in refineries across Germany and occupied France. Each one has dosed fuel shipments destined for Luftwaffe airfields. The poison is spreading through the supply chain, invisible and lethal, but the Gestapo is tightening the noose. Hartley makes the calculation every spy master dreads. How many more agents can he sacrifice before the operation collapses? He drafts an urgent message to the field. Accelerate dosing. Maximum saturation. Extraction protocols abandoned. Complete mission at all costs. It is a death sentence for those still inside, and Hartley knows it. But D-Day is weeks away, and if the Luftwaffe flies, thousands of Allied soldiers will die on the beaches. The math is brutal and inescapable. The agents receive the message and understand. There will be no rescue, no escape, only the mission. In a refinery outside Munich, an agent named Elise Dubois reads the transmission and feels the weight of finality settle over her. She has 3 vials left, 3 chances to poison fuel shipments before the Gestapo finds her. She does not know if she will live to see the invasion. But she will die, knowing she did everything possible to ensure its success. That night, under cover of darkness, she doses her final batch. Security patrols close in, sirens wail, searchlights sweep the compound. Elise runs, her heart pounding, knowing capture means torture and death. She makes it to the fence, climbs, and drops into the shadows beyond. For now, she survives. But the hunt is relentless, and the Gestapo will not stop until every saboteur is dead. Across Europe, the silent war intensifies. Agents vanish. Fuel shipments carry poison. Engines fail. The Luftwaffe hemorrhages operational aircraft, and no one in the German High Command understands why. The countdown to D-Day continues, and the stakes have never been higher. The operation is succeeding, but the cost is measured in lives, and the final price has yet to be paid. June 6th, 1944. 0300 hours. The English Channel churns beneath a moonless sky, black water concealing the largest invasion fleet in human history. Thousands of Allied ships cut through the darkness toward the coast of Normandy, carrying 156,000 soldiers who will either liberate Europe or die trying. Above the armada, transport planes rumble in tight formations, filled with paratroopers, whose mission begins in darkness and blood. The fate of civilization hangs suspended in these final hours before dawn, and no one knows if the gamble will succeed or fail catastrophically. At Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force in Portsmouth, General Dwight Eisenhower stands alone in his office, staring at weather reports and casualty projections that make his stomach turn. Intelligence estimates the Luftwaffe can field 1,200 to 1,500 fighters over the invasion beaches. If those aircraft achieve air superiority, the landing craft will be slaughtered before reaching shore. Naval bombardment and Allied air cover can only do so much. Eisenhower has committed everything to this single roll of the dice, and the cost of failure is unthinkable. He drafts a letter accepting full responsibility for disaster, just in case. Then he waits for the radio reports that will determine history. 400 miles away, at Luftwaffe Jagdgeschwader, 3 airfield near Chartres, chaos erupts in the pre-dawn darkness. Flight crews scramble toward their Focke-Wulf fighters, engines roaring to life across the tarmac as klaxons shriek invasion warnings. Oberst Heinrich Kramer, the squadron commander, sprints toward his aircraft, adrenaline and fury pumping through his veins. This is the moment Germany has prepared for. The invasion everyone predicted. The chance to drive the Allies back into the sea and prove the Reich invincible. Kramer's fighter is fueled and armed, mechanics giving thumbs up as he climbs into the cockpit. Around him, 24 aircraft prepare for takeoff, pilots strapping in, engines warming up. Intelligence reports confirm massive Allied landings along the Normandy coast. Orders are explicit. Achieve air superiority, strafe the beaches, destroy landing craft, turn the water red. Kramer flips switches, checks gauges, and prepares to lead his squadron into the battle that will define his life. The engine catches, roars, then sputters. Kramer frowns, adjusts the fuel mixture, tries again. The engine coughs violently, belching black smoke from the exhaust. Warning lights flash across the instrument panel. Oil pressure plummeting, temperature spiking. Impossible. This aircraft passed inspection 2 hours ago. Everything was perfect. Around the airfield, identical nightmares unfold. Engines die mid-startup. Fighters taxi toward runways only to grind to sudden, catastrophic halts. Pilots scream into radios, demanding answers from mechanics who have none to give. In less than 10 minutes, 18 of Kramer's 24 aircraft are grounded with inexplicable mechanical failures. The remaining 6 manage takeoff, but 2 suffer engine explosions within minutes, tumbling from the sky in fireballs that light the dawn. Kramer punches the canopy in blind rage, watching his squadron disintegrate before his eyes. He grabs a mechanic by the collar and roars for explanations. The terrified man stammers about fuel contamination, about engine corrosion that should not exist, about failures they cannot diagnose or repair. Kramer releases him and stares toward the coast, where the sound of naval bombardment rumbles like distant thunder. The invasion is happening right now, and the Luftwaffe is paralyzed. The scene repeats across every major airfield, from Calais to Brittany. At Jagdgeschwader 2, outside Amiens, 37 fighters are grounded within the first hour. At Kampfgeschwader 51 near Le Mans, bomber crews watch helplessly as engines seize and burn. The pattern is identical everywhere. Fuel contamination causing catastrophic internal damage that manifests precisely when needed most. German commanders scream into telephones, demanding reinforcements, demanding answers, demanding miracles. None come. In the operations bunker beneath Luftwaffe headquarters in Paris, General Feldmarschall Hugo Sperle receives damage reports with mounting horror. Out of an anticipated force of 1,500 operational aircraft, barely 300 manage to get airborne. Of those, dozens suffer mid-flight failures and crash or return crippled to base. The air defense of Fortress Europe has collapsed not from enemy action, but from invisible sabotage that no one detected until the critical moment. Sperl slams his fist on the table, veins bulging in his neck, as he screams accusations of incompetence and treason. His staff stands paralyzed, knowing they are witnessing catastrophe unfold in real time. Above the beaches of Normandy, Allied aircraft dominate skies that should be contested battlegrounds. Spitfires and Thunderbolts patrol in lazy circles, encountering almost no resistance. Below, landing craft disgorge thousands of soldiers onto sand and shingle, advancing under brutal German artillery and machine gun fire, but spared the nightmare of aerial attack. The Luftwaffe fighters that do appear are outnumbered 10-1, picked off by Allied pilots who cannot believe their luck. By noon, air superiority is absolute. By nightfall, the beachheads are secure. At his command post overlooking Omaha Beach, American Lieutenant Colonel James Rudder watches waves of reinforcements land unopposed from the air. His Rangers took horrific casualties scaling the cliffs under fire, but the expected bombing runs from German aircraft never materialized. Rudder does not understand why. He does not care. His men are alive, the mission succeeded, and the sky belongs to the Allies. He lights a cigarette with shaking hands and allows himself to believe, for the first time, that they might actually win this war. In London, Dr. James Hartley sits in his windowless office beneath OSS headquarters, surrounded by decoded transmissions and casualty reports. The radio brings news of successful landings, of beachheads expanding, of German defenses crumbling faster than anticipated. Hartley feels no joy. The cost has been unspeakable. Of the 12 agents he sent into the Reich, 9 are dead, captured, tortured, executed. 3 survive in hiding, broken and traumatized. The operation succeeded beyond all strategic projections, but the human price was paid in full by people whose names will never appear in official histories. Hartley unlocks a steel cabinet and retrieves a folder containing the complete operational records: chemical formulas, agent dossiers, infiltration routes, contamination schedules. Everything documenting how a handful of scientists crippled the Luftwaffe with poison invisible to the enemy until the moment it killed them. He carries the folder to an incinerator in the basement and feeds every page into the flames, watching years of work reduced to ash. The operation must remain buried. The world can never know that D-Day succeeded not just through courage and firepower, but through sabotage so sophisticated that history will attribute German failures to incompetence or material shortages. As the last document burns, Hartley allows himself a single moment of grief for the agents who died to make this possible. Pierre Monton, tortured to death in a Gestapo basement, who never spoke a word. Elise Dubois, executed by firing squad in Munich, defiant to the end. Victor, whose real name Hartley never learned, shot while fleeing a refinery in Cologne. Their sacrifice changed the course of history, and their reward is eternal anonymity. Weeks later, in a small ceremony witnessed only by OSS leadership, Hartley receives a commendation he cannot display and a promotion he does not want. Major William Donovan shakes his hand and speaks words meant to convey gratitude for services that will never be acknowledged publicly. Hartley nods, says nothing, and walks out of the room feeling older than his years. Across the Atlantic, in a Washington cemetery, a simple headstone marks the grave of a man listed as killed in action in France. The stone bears no details, no story, no indication that beneath it lies one of the architects of victory. Hartley visits once, stands in silence for 10 minutes, then leaves and never returns. Some debts can never be repaid. Some stories can never be told. In Germany, the Luftwaffe never solves the mystery of the fuel contamination. Post-war investigations attribute the failures to industrial sabotage by slave laborers or quality control breakdowns under Allied bombing pressure. The truth remains hidden in classified files that will stay sealed for decades. Surviving Luftwaffe officers spend the rest of their lives haunted by the knowledge that they failed when it mattered most, never understanding that they were defeated by an enemy they could not see, fight, or comprehend. And in the skies over Normandy, where thousands died to secure a foothold in Hitler's Europe, no monument honors the chemists and spies who made victory possible. Their names are forgotten, their mission erased. But every soldier who walked off those beaches alive owes their survival to a handful of ghosts who fought a silent war with vials of poison and nerves of steel. The operation succeeded, the invasion triumphed, and the world moved forward, never knowing the invisible hand that tipped the scales toward freedom.